This is my SAVI
And this
story.
is my
This is
SAVI
my
story.
SAVI story.
This is my SAVI story.
My dad was in Vietnam. And most Vietnam vets, what I've come to learn, don't necessarily share that experience. So I have another cousin. He's like the elder of my family, so he's in his mid-90s, and he actually served in World War II, the Korean War, and Vietnam. So he gets all the love. Yeah, he's like that guy in the family, and he's the elder, and for my family, he's a direct connection to my great great grandmother, who is like the matriarch, and that's pretty much as far as we can go back. With our history in the United States, period. She was the daughter of a slave, and she lived to be like 105. She died. She actually passed the year the day I finished boot camp. So she was born in 1894. So that would have made her 104. But she was born in 1894, and she died December 31st, 1998. Yeah, and that's the day I finished boot camp. So I had a full life with her, and she was it. She passed in her sleep. My cousin, who was he's her sister's child. He's still alive, and he's doing great. And just looking at his patriotism and trying to carry on that legacy, and that was really an inspiration for me, and to really probably give some redemption for my father, who really doesn't talk about the Vietnam War, and to really join and do my part, actually. And set an example for the next generation. I had another cousin, Turner Blunt, who he was actually a Montfort Point Marine. And if you're not familiar with Montfort Point Marines, these are Marines who joined when the Marine Corps was still segregated. So they had to call themselves Montfort Point Marines. So being stationed in Jacksonville, North Carolina, really gave me a good opportunity, because the training that hospital corpsmen go through to serve with the Marine Corps is actually on Camp Johnson. And during World War II, that was actually called Montfort Point. And that was where African American Marines had to train. They couldn't go out in town. They couldn't go out in the city. They could only go on that base, train in a segregated unit. And they weren't even trusted with guns at the time, with weapons or rifles. They would have to, have broomsticks and, chase animals around. It was really degrading work. And then, they were shipped off to World War II to serve in segregated units, right? Because this is still a Jim Crow era in the South. So, just having those two within my family really gave me a lot of perspective on how far we've come. And just for my cousin, Turner Blunt, he actually went on to become a council member in Jacksonville, retired as a master gunnery sergeant, did a lot of good stuff in Jacksonville, North Carolina. And he passed a couple years ago, but, his legacy lives on.
Sure. So he was actually drafted, and he didn't actually get to go to war or anything. So it was a very short-lived kind of time, if you will. But still, nonetheless, it was an incredible story. I mean, I can't imagine, being drafted to go to the military. I joined by choice. And really, there was a sense of pride around that, which I think was what drew me to it. It was just the honor, the pride that he had speaking about the military. And again, it wasn't like he had an incredible career or spent years and years in there, but that short span was enough to give me a glimpse into the family unity, the just patrioticness of being able to serve and give back to your country. So that was really what drew me. And honestly, 9/11 it feels like yesterday. And I remember sitting on my couch, and I was, in high school at the time, and I watched those planes hit, and that in combination with, my exposure through my grandfather's experiences, I think just something was awakened in me, and I felt a sense of duty. I felt a sense of responsibility to not only make something of myself, but to do it in a way that was also going to be able to serve my community.
Ironically, yes, even though I didn't know that at the time, right? I joined the service, and it was probably 5 years in until I had known that anyone else had. My grandfather did, actually. My grandmother told me that my grandfather served in the Marines, in the Army, but he didn't talk about it at all. He had a very rough experience. I think, they dealt with a lot of racism at the time, and a lot of the interesting medical battles that they had experienced back in the Vietnam era, where they were testing a lot of the vaccines, right, that went wrong. So yeah, he didn't talk about any of it at all. So it wasn't as much of an effect. But when I realized that I did have family, I found out that I had a couple of cousins. One was a Navy SEAL, actually. And then another one was in the Marines, and he had done Marine ground. And it was interesting. We had some conversations during the holidays about, service, life in the service. And, cool.
My great grandfather was in the Navy on my father's side. And I don't know what his exact job was, but I remember his photo, and we would briefly talk about his military service. My grandfather on my mother's side, he was also served in the Navy, and all my grandfather's brothers served in the Navy as well, from Seabees to SEALs. So, on each side of my family, the majority of enlisted in the Navy, but only a few, enlisted outside of that. I think one of my grandfather's cousins was in World War II. He was in the Army. He was a paratrooper. And my father was a Marine. My dad's cousin was in the Air Force, and he was a drill instructor.